So good morning, my dear friends. I hope all of you are doing fine. I'm also doing fine. So I welcome you all in my video lesson for class 9th life science. This is our 12th video class, and in this class we will be learning from where we have left here in our study class. So in our previous video we have saw that what is classification and what forms the basis of classification. We also learned about that cell serves as the basis of classification. In most cases it forms the broad categories and the design element makes the subcategories. Okay students, so now let's move ahead with our today's class. So in our today's class we are going to see a picture first. Okay, so now let's go ahead with the picture. So students, can you observe this picture? Yes. Okay, so in this picture you can find that the different organisms are arising from the same line, isn't it? So this is the line that is going there. This is the line, and here the first the sharks came out, then the rain finned fish came out, then amphibians came out, then primates came out. From the primates arose the rodents and rabbits, then the crocodiles came out, then birds came out, right? So what we are going to study today, can you link this? Isn't it forming a sort of a hierarchy, or we can say a ladder? Yes students, right? So students, today we are going to study about the classification and evolution. Okay, so this is our topic. We are going to study about classification and evolution. Okay, so now let's proceed. Students, I will here are two pictures shown to you. Can you see these pictures? Yes, right. So this is the book written by this famous scientist. The name of this scientist is Charles Darwin. Okay, and he wrote a book titled The Origin of the Species. Right, and this book was written by Charles Darwin. Okay, so you know that he has played a very significant part in the evolution theory. Okay, right. So let's understand how the classification and the evolution works. Right. So now let's proceed ahead. So students, the characteristics that came into existence earlier, isn't it? Those characteristics that came into existence earlier is likely to be more basic character. Understood? So this is the fundamental issue here, that those characteristics that came early into existence is likely to be the basic characters that we have came into the existence later, right? When we compare the basic characteristics, those we think that has arisen earlier, but when we think of the advanced characteristics, we think that it is the means product of the specialization, or we can say those characters have come at a later period. Okay, students. So when we connect this idea of evolution to classification, we find some group of the organisms which have ancient body design have not changed very much, right? When we will connect this idea of what? The idea that the basic characteristics arose first and then the advanced characteristics came. So when we talk about this idea, then what we can see? We can see that there are some group of organisms in which the body haven't changed very much from where they have evolved, right? So we will also find some other group of organisms that have acquired a particular body design relatively recently, right? So there will be some other groups also whose body design has completely changed, or they have acquired a new body design, and that too in a very recent history, right students? Okay, so in the first group, like in those group that haven't changed their body design in a very long period of time, we simply refer to them as primitive or the lower organisms. Okay, students. So the organisms in the first group means those organisms in which the body design haven't changed much is referred to as the primitive or the lower group, and those organisms who has like made its body into a new form is classified into the second group, and we call it also as advanced or the higher organisms, right? So in reality these terms are not correct because they do not properly relate the difference, right? Why? Because even the ancient animal, or what we call as the primitive animals or the lower animals, can show some of the specialization, and even all the advanced animals don't have all the characteristics that is new. They have some old characteristics also, right? So now let's look at this quiz. So students, now you tell me by looking at this question what you see. Yes, the question is how is the evolution and classification related? Yes, the question is how is evolution and classification related? I am giving you 10 seconds to think about this question. Okay, students? Right. So in the previous slides that we have seen, we saw that there is a fundamental in the evolution, and that fundamental says that those characteristics, the characteristics, the characteristics that came earlier will be shown in more number of organisms, right? So there will be some characteristics that have came earlier, and there are some characteristics that has been made recently, right? So now there are, when we add the evolution and the classification, we can see that there are some organisms in which the body hasn't changed much from the original evolution design, and there are organisms in which the body design has changed quite a lot. Okay, students? So the organisms in the first group, that is the in those organisms in which the body design haven't changed much, what we call them as primitive, and those organisms in which the body design has changed much, them we call as what? Them we call as advanced. Right, students? So this is how the evolution and the classification is related. So now let's move ahead. Yes, students. So can you give group these organisms, students? Right. So these are fishes, isn't it? These are fishes. These live in water. These are butterflies. These live in on the trees. Right. These are birds. These fly in the air. Right. So is there any other way in which you can group these organisms? Anything that you can think of? Okay, so we can group this fish with this butterfly, with this bird and this bird because they are blue in color. Yes, isn't it? Can we do so? Okay, we can do so, but it is not in the life sciences. So in the life sciences, we make classifications based upon the characteristics of the body, right? And those characteristics or the design element will be secondary, but the basic element will serve as the purpose of broader classification. Okay. So as these both are fishes, so these will be classified together. This is a butterfly. This is also a butterfly. So they will be classified together. All three are birds, so they will be classified together. Okay. So now let's move ahead. Yes, students. So, do you identify this person? The name of this person is R.H. Whitaker. Note down the name of this person because we will be going to learn about his contributions too much. Okay. So, biologists, namely, I'm naming some of the biologists. So, please note it down. Biologists such as Ernest Haeckel, Robert Whitaker, and Carl Woese, right? Ernest Haeckel, Robert Whitaker, and Carl Woese have tried to classify all the organisms into broad categories, right? So they have tried to classify these organisms into broad categories, and what we call these broad categories, we call these broad categories as kingdoms. Understood, students? What we call these broad categories? We call these broad categories as kingdoms. Okay, so how many kingdoms are there? Let's see. So the classification Whitaker proposed has 5 kingdoms. Okay, students, what are those 5 kingdoms? So first one is the Monera, second one is Protista, third one is Fungi, fourth one is Plantae, fifth one is Animalia. Okay, so repeat after me. What are the 5 kingdoms proposed by Whitaker? First one is Monera, second one is Protista, third one is Fungi, fourth one is Plantae, and fifth one is Animalia. Okay, students? Right. So when we look at the five kingdom classification, what we will see? We will see that this kingdom classification is based upon their cellular structure, right? These are based upon their cellular structure, mode and the source of nutrition and the body organization. Okay, so you will see here this bacteria is belongs to the prokaryotes, right? After that, when you will go into protista, then you will see plantae and fungi, animalia. So what is the basis of the classification into five kingdom, students? Right. So the basis of five kingdom classification is cell structure, right? Mode and the source of nutrition and the body organization. Okay, students, understood this point? Right. So now, where is cell structure used? Where is the mode and the source of the nutrition used? And where is the body organization used? Let's see. So when we are classifying the organisms into prokaryotes and eukaryotes, then the cell structure is seen. In the prokaryotes, there will be no well-defined nucleus. As a result, these bacteria will not have any predefined nucleus. Okay, students? So it will come under Monera. Okay, students. Now let's see the protista. Protista belongs to a eukaryote, so these organisms will have a well-defined nucleus, right? So according to the mode and the source of nutrition and the body organization, then we can see plantae, fungi, and animalia. Yes, students, done. So now let's proceed ahead. So here is a question for you, and the question is that the five kingdom classification. Read this question very carefully. The five kingdom classification was given by whom? Okay, students, read this question. So the five kingdom classification was given by whom? Yes, who will answer this question? Right. So the five kingdom classification was given by R. H. Whitaker. R. H. Whitaker. Okay, students, understood this point? Right. So now let's move ahead. So students, what you can see in this picture? Okay, so there is a triangle, right? So there are different things written here: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. What is this? And there is a picture of cat also shown here. Okay, so now we will see what is the hierarchy of the classification. Okay, right? We will see the hierarchy of the classification, right? Let's see here. So students, just observe these two pictures very carefully. Okay, students. Can you find that is there any linkage between them? Can you find any type of similarity in between them? Okay. So what is this? This is a mango tree, isn't it? This tree is having mango, while this tree is of apples, right? So, okay, first similarity between these two is that these both are trees or these both are plants, right? So, but is it the same? Means is the mango plant same as the apple plant? No. To differentiate between the plants or to differentiate between each kingdom, we need another subcategories. Okay, students. So now let's learn about the hierarchy or the subcategories of the classification. Okay, students, we will learn about the hierarchy of the classification, right? So by separating the organism based on the basis of a hierarchy, a characteristics into smaller and smaller groups, we arrive at a basic unit, right? So you will see there is a domain eukarya, right? So it is all organisms are eukaryotic organisms. There is a domain eukarya. Then the kingdom is animalia. Then the phylum is chordata. Class is mammalia. Order is carnivora. Family is Cnidae. And genus is Bupils, and the species is Bupils. Okay, students. So when we are classifying these organisms, when we are shortening the characteristics upon which broader characteristics, ultimately we reach at the final characteristics, or we can say we reach at the basic unit of classification, right? So what is the basic unit of classification, students? The basic unit of classification is species, right? So what is a species? So a species includes all those organisms, understood? A species includes all those organisms. A species includes all those organisms that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. Okay, students? So, in other words, if I will say, I'll say that a species includes all those organisms that can mate among themselves and produce fertile offsprings. Right, students? So, what is a species? A species includes all organisms that are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. Okay, students? Now, let's go ahead. So here is a question. So can you list the hierarchy of the classification, students? Yes. Okay. Right. So now let's try to list the hierarchy of the classification. So first of all, there will be what? There will be domain. Okay. Let me write it here. There will be domain. After domain, there will be kingdom. After kingdom, there will be phylum. Or phylum in the case of animals, and in the case of animals, in the case of plants, there will be division. Then there will be class. Then there will be family. Then there will be genus, and at last there will be species, right? So this is the hierarchy of the classification. What will be there? At the top there will be domain, after that there will be kingdom, after that there will be phylum, after that there will be class, after that there will be family, after that there will be genus, and after that there will be species. Understood, students? Right. So there will be kingdom, phylum, class, family, species, and genus. Students? Right. So this is the list: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, family, genus, species. Right. So now let's move ahead. So in our today's class, students, what we have learned about the classification. Okay, students. So now let's answer a few questions. So now let's define what is evolution. Okay. So the evolution is the making up of the new advanced characteristics in the primitive organisms, right? So the organisms that were primitive, they got some new characteristics, and that is known as what? That is known as evolution. Okay, students? Right. So what is the need to use the hierarchy of classification? Why we need to use the hierarchy of classification, students? Right. So we need to use the hierarchy of the classification because in broader category there will be a lot more organisms that is based upon that category. So we can divide animals on their specific characteristics by using the hierarchy of the classification. Okay, students, is it correct? Right. So now, can you identify the person who gave the five kingdom classification? Yes, students. Who was the person who gave five kingdom classification? Yes, the name of that person was R. H. Whitaker. Right, students? The name of that person was R. H. Whitaker. Now, can you list the hierarchy of classification, students? Yes, the hierarchy of classification goes as, first of all, there will be division, and after division there will be kingdom, after kingdom there will be phylum, after phylum there will be, after phylum there will be order, after order there will be family, and after family there will be genus, and after genus there will be species. Okay, so it will be what I'm writing it here: K P C O F G S means kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So it will be KPCOFGS means kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Right, students? So now let's come to the homework section. So in the homework section, you need to make a graph on how the organisms evolved from the beginning till now. You can use internet in for this question. Okay. So now explain the Carolus lineage classification by making the chart, and after that you need to classify. You need to write down the advantages of classifying the organism. So this is your homework for today, and we have reached the end of our class. So I thank you all for attending this video lecture. So I hope you will have a good day in the class. So thank you, dear students.